Okay, that's us rolling. So, Dr. Lavan, thank you for joining us today.
Pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, Ray.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I'm really happy to have you here. So, if you don't mind, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So, as you know, I'm a doctor,
Mhm.
a very privileged doctor. I'm very fortunate with the job I have. I work in two practices in South London, in England, where one of my practices is with a few of my best friends, which is lovely because working with your best friends, as much as it could have its worries with finances and things, has actually worked out really well, and that's been going on since about 2013. And thankfully, my other practice, it's with a couple of other friends and actually dad as well. So dad's a GP, and my sister as well, which is quite handy. So again,
Wow.
risks with finances, but it's worked out wonderfully. So I'm very privileged in that sense. And I guess a lot of my recent work and why I'm thankful to meet people like yourself, Ray, and others through these new social medias, which I'm sure we'll be talking about, is the fact, before social media was around, we probably wouldn't have interactions and be able to share knowledge. So, like what you're doing, Ray, with language and English and spreading that across the world, really. Simply with me, with medicine and teaching about topics, I was able to do that in a population of probably about 20,000 patients, which is great. And
Mhm.
I'm very happy with that. But now there's an opportunity now to any knowledge we gain to spread it across the world, which is lovely because for me now that's becoming a big driver because the one comment I get from a patient or a person or a follower watching just saying how it's made an impact on their life or how they're able to understand a condition better is so fulfilling now for me. Yeah, we don't get paid for it, which is fine. That I'm not here for the money. It's more we can actually make an impact on so many other people's lives. So people from Pakistan, Uganda, North Africa, Sri Lanka are messaging us now saying, oh, we don't have general practice or we don't have primary care. And actually, that simple problem you spoke about regarding a cancer, that resonated with me or my family. So yeah, really exciting times, and that's where my focus is now shifting. I'm still got my base with my practices, and I will still look after that population probably till I pass, to be honest. But it's great to have other interests and doing it with something I'm quite passionate about, both teaching and medicine.
That's really excellent that you have something which you're both passionate about and something which is making a really positive difference in the world. As you were talking there, it reminded me of this principle I was reading of. Have you ever read about Ikagi?
I haven't actually, no.
Yeah, it's this really interesting topic. It's the Japanese philosophy for living a long and happy life. And it's a combination of four different things. One is what you can be paid for, what the world needs, what you're good at, and I think it's what you love. And
Okay.
doing these four things, it's not so much of you do this until you hit 65 and you retire. It's a matter of this is your life purpose. And I saw in your introduction video, you speak really about your job in a really beautiful way. You obviously see a purpose in it. There was a line in your introduction video where you said one thing that's really rewarding is that you're either extending or improving the quality of your patients' lives. So yeah, it must be a really, a rewarding feeling to do something like that.
Absolutely, it's lovely you picked that line up. I was going to say, "Gosh, I hope I remember my video," but that is actually the line that I guess I live by because, doing general practice. I mean, there's a lot of us in general practice who really see programs where the A&E they rush in with the blood and the gore. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, I miss those days, and there's an opportunity if I want to, I can still. We get emergencies once in a while. The heart attacks will pop in maybe once every couple of months.
Mhm.
A child will have a reaction in our surgery that will probably come every couple of months. And yes, we get that excitement. But for me, it is that what I love about this job is exactly what you said, that extension of life. I mean, the changes I make with diabetic medications or blood pressure medications, if I wasn't doing that, sadly, some of these patients, they'd probably live 40, 50 years. But because we're doing quite good work with adjusting medications, choosing medications that not only help the patient but can potentially have protective effects on their body, we are pushing their lifespan much longer. that itself has its issues, because actually now our patients are living longer. You know, we have got a financial issue now in the country. The NHS is now struggling, and we now need to find cleverer ways. And maybe we'll touch on this subject, but it's now about, we're in this position now. We need to find cleverer ways of managing our population who are living longer. And that's why a part of my studying now and drive is actually about self-care, doing things, our population, you know, stopping smoking, reducing the alcohol, doing the exercise, watching for their mental health, reducing their stress levels, watching their work more. By managing your mindset better, by eating well, doing these things, you may not even need to come and see someone like me. You'll be, you know, what we talk about, this expert patient. I have loads of lovely patients who come and tell me, oh, Dr. Bhaskar or Dr. Lavan, I've done this and that. And I'll ask, oh, why are you drinking that turmeric drink with the coconut oil? Oh, because I've learned. Okay, is it helping? Yeah, my cholesterol's dropped down, my blood pressure. Oh, wow. And we want to get to a position where doctors become a manager in a way. You can contact your doctor of, I'm doing this, is this right? Should I do this? Oh, yeah. As opposed to where we're struggling now in general practice, where you could have a 30-year-old chap who can call you at 6 in the morning, or who'll feel they've got a sore throat, let's say, at 6 in the morning. And by 8 o'clock, you can have an appointment to see me, where we just tell them, you know, even as doctors, a 2-hour sore throat, even a doctor's not got magic powers that can fix it. Well, why don't you trust in your body and let your body sort it out? And then 2-3 weeks time, if we're not winning, of course, I'll step in and do my bit.
Yeah, I think that's great, especially what you said about people taking this sort of responsibility of their own health, their own maintenance. I think that's great what you mentioned about your patients coming to you and they're taking turmeric, they're taking the supplements. And would you say that's somewhere that's like one of the focuses of your YouTube channel? Because I see that you're actually fairly recently just joined the social media world. I mean, your YouTube channel only launched 4 months ago, but it's actually doing really, really well.
Yeah, I think a part of that success is you need to have trust. I guess there's no point me going in saying, guys, everyone drink turmeric water and you're going to live 50 years. You know, that's not, I need that, the support. So the educational videos are there to share my knowledge and to say that, look, I'm a trustworthy doctor. I believe in medicine. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying throw all your blood pressure tablets away and start running and it will fix everything. It's more, look, we can do this together. So I wanted to build up that trust, that network. And as we spoke about earlier, I'm fortunate where I have a patient base. So actually some of my patients, when I advise them, right, take some vitamin D because your levels are low, I will point them in the direction of my video. I'll say, look, I've done a summary video on vitamin D. Have a look. So you already get that support. They're loving it. They're like, oh, my doctor's on YouTube, and which is great. But then it's the word of mouth that, oh, there's a trustworthy doctor, hopefully, who uses what we call evidence-based. I've looked at the scientific papers that says, for example, vitamin D potentially could provide some marginal form of protection against COVID by bringing our immune system up. So you use that basis. But once you build that confidence, I want to be in a position to tell people, and on top of that, to try and cut down some of these medications. There are these wonderful things that people in Africa use. These people in Jamaica drink a special seed. These people in India drink a special, you know, a shake that we can, and maybe we learn together and try these, because many, many years ago, people were still living very well, avoiding cancers, and they were doing something right. We've westernized everything, the pollution, the types of things we eat, the types of ways we heat things, and we are going down a slippery slope, and we need to draw back and go to basics and think of, you know, the organic foods that we eat, reduce the poisons that are going in there, and start, as people talk about, as Buddha talks about it, treating our bodies like a temple where, yes, of course you enjoy yourself. I'm not telling everyone to stop drinking alcohol. I mean, I drink alcohol myself. It would be hypocritical of me to say that. However, in moderation, enjoy it, because actually that night with your friends, socializing, lifts the mood. You're then happier, you attend work, you're happy at work. That has an impact on your week. So taking things in moderation and learning about herbs and spices and things that other cultures have used, we should start bringing that back. And that the topic is what we call now in medicine is lifestyle medicine, using the exercise, diet. And if you see now on the Instagrams and the social medias, there's a big drive. Lots of very intelligent, clever doctors are suddenly not switching, but are saying, look, we need to think differently. And I admire those doctors, because there's a chance people may challenge them and say, oh, they're wishy-washy, they're not really using proper medicine. But it's what we should adapt and find ways to do.
Yeah, you touched on a lot of really interesting subjects there, such as just mental health. And I've seen in your YouTube channel, you talk about someone who's trying to lose, correct me if I'm misquoting you, but it was something along the lines of people are trying to lose weight, but the weight's not budging. And it turns out there's actually a hormonal disbalance because they're not sleeping properly.
Correct.
So of course, there's a lot of different areas, such as, well, like health is not limited to just the body. You have your mental health, you have your spiritual health, and your well-being. What would you say are some of the forefronts which are good for people to focus on? Like how do you personally cultivate your own positive mental health, and your exercise? Like, what sort of lifestyle techniques could you maybe recommend that are just
Yeah.
generally really resourceful for people to have to ensure they're living a better and longer quality of life?
Yeah, no, it's a very good point, Ray. I mean, there's big chunks in this. I mean, sleep you touched on, and I don't think we talk about sleep enough. And I'm fortunate where I say I sleep very, very well. If you put me into a bed within 20 minutes or so, I'll sleep. And I really sympathize people who don't. And a great way to see how sleep can really impact your life is I look back at my wife, and I look back at other mothers who've come and spoken to me, where their child, which, they're looking after their child, that has to be done. But that break in sleep pattern will eventually have a huge mental health of impact. And you see some of these young mothers struggling, and they should be happy because their baby's born and everything should be great. But that interruption in sleep doesn't allow the rest to occur. And as a result, when we talk about things like you were mentioning about obesity and weight, that can have an impact, because actually, if we're not sleeping appropriately at the right times, eating in the wrong times, that can all have quite a huge impact. So sleep is one thing. I think we all talk about, oh, exercise, diet. That's the first thing we shout out. A non-medic and a medic will say the same thing. But we forget about sleep. And the video on obesity that I speak to Dr. Rabbani about, who's done a lot of work on this, it's the sleep gets missed out. And I think we need to bring that back to focus. And you may be surprised to learn from me that some patients, when they come to me and they ask for sleeping tablets or manage their sleep, I sometimes temporarily actually give them medications to help them sleep, because I want to get that sleep pattern back. So of course I'll try the herbal ways. There are various medications we can do, even antihistamines, for example, that we take for reactions of the skin. There are drowsy ones, for example, like Piriton, which you can take that will make you feel a bit sleepy and allow you to sleep. And the reason I spend my whole 20 minutes, 30 minutes consulting with them and trying to encourage them to sleep better is I say, take these antihistamines, sleep, have a go for the next month. Just go to town, have a nice sleep for every night for a month, and see the impact it has on your life. And people come back shocked. And then it's a question of weaning off the Piriton and finding ways. And then you have a chance to go, then they can think with clarity. When you're not sleeping, you wake up in a foggy mindset. So your work's not right, you're angry, you're short with people, you interact with your family is off, you're angry with your children. You're not being a bad person, it's just you're not there. Whereas when they sleep, they're fresher. So they see, oh, right, okay, actually, work are really giving me a lot of stress. I need to now focus on that. And work again, you may say, Lavan, that's not right what you're saying here. But when people come to me about stress at work, I really make a big deal about them. I will challenge their work and say, you've got to look after your employee. You've got to do something here. Or I tell the patient, look, if you need some time off for stress because the anxiety levels are going up, take that time, because if we don't intervene now, 2-3 weeks time, you're going to hit a crash. And that's when it becomes a big problem, because then I really have to step in. I have to bring in medications. I have to bring in psychological therapies. So sleep, work, and then the obvious exercise and diet. I preach, and my wife will tell me off. I'll say, look, guys, you've got to exercise. You've got to exercise. I don't do it as much as I should. I'll be honest and say that. But the times I have done it, and what I'm really surprised about, I have to be honest, and we'll probably touch on this, but the Instagram phenomenon of people just posting about, I'm going for a run, and then getting 1,000 likes or hits, or I just couldn't understand. I was like, why would any normal person sit there and worry about why Ray is running 5 kilometers. What? And then one day I was sitting putting my daughter to bed, and I hadn't jogged in a long time. And my friend, one of my good friends, Sachin, had said I had posted I've done 5 kilometers. And initially I was like, Sachin, you're an idiot. What? I don't care. You know? And you won't believe, I got up after putting Sarah to bed, and I went to my wife and said, you know what, I'm going to go for a run. And I can't explain what it was that ticked it, but I went for a run, really enjoyed it, sent a message to him going, thank you, that was amazing. He then said, let's get this app together where we can actually run together, even though he's in North London. And it spurred on something there, to the point of when we recently went to the South Coast, the kids and a few other friends of ours were all kind of having dinner, sorting out the kids. And me and Sats just went and run on the beach. And it was lovely, it really was. And it's that, you know, finding friends, finding contents, being inspired by other people. We're not here on Instagram. I'm not here to show off and say, I'm an amazing doctor, I want you to be like this. And I'm sure Ray's not sitting there going, I'm great, you know, the way I speak is phenomenal, I can teach any. We're not doing, we want to inspire, we want to teach. And that's why I think social media, I'm starting to learn, does have a place for us in the future. So we should encourage that.
Of course, you touched on so many interesting subjects I want to touch on. Just for the benefit of the viewers, what's that app called where you can run with your friends who are in different locations?
God, I'm going to have to pass that on again because I downloaded it and then I think I've deleted it. It begins with T, Travago. I'll let you know those.
Yeah, cool. If you send it to me, I'll add it into the video description or something. Yeah, I think that's a really excellent idea. You know, you really touched on a lot of interesting parts there. So I'm really fascinated to hear that. Am I right in saying you would actually prioritize sleep over exercise? Would you say?
So I absolutely. So exercise. The thing is, people. It's a step by step. If I tell you, Ray, I need you to do 35 minutes exercise 5 times a week, go and do it. Respectfully, Ray, you're not. It doesn't hit you hard unless something sad had happened. So a relative sadly having a heart attack or a stroke, and then you suddenly feel inspired and you go and do it. But it's about trying to feed or planting a seed, and I call it planting a seed, where you say, you know what, let's do something that's easy or manageable or doable. So if I know you could do 2-3 times a week of exercise, I may focus on that. But sleep is something where you've got a bed, it's there, done every night. It's not tricky. You don't have to coordinate any. It's just set a time, go to bed, do some hours. Now around that, the work would be, make sure you eat on time before, because you don't want to be having problems with your tummy when you're going to bed, having acid, and that stops you from sleeping. You want to reduce the stress around it, i.e. the kids are in bed early, you've had a nice book to read or something positive, you've read an inspirational quote about Buddha or someone else who's written something lovely. Your mindset is ready and ready to go to bed. So you can do things around that, you know, drinking a small glass of water, maybe an hour or two before. When you go to bed, you're not thinking about other things, family stresses, financial worries, all of this. So these things, it sounds tricky, but it's actually quite easy, simple things to adopt. And then you go into the sleep, then you focus on how you're sleeping. Is your pillow the right height? Is the length of the bed enough? I'm very pedantic. I have a issue, I have mild OCD, where if the curtains aren't closed fully and there's a bit of light coming through, I can't go to bed. I cannot concentrate. My wife has a clock that ticks. I have to put that outside. There's rituals that I do, but I know when that's all done, I can not sleep, and I can have a 6 to 8 hours sleep, which I'm very grateful for. I'm sad for people who tell me, I wake up 3 times a night. I have to go to the bathroom. I have to do this. And it goes as far as, I've done a recent video on prostate cancer, which one of the symptoms is waking up at night, going to the bathroom. Now, as a doctor, I would say, for me, when I hear all the symptoms, when someone says they're going to wake up, I've got one chap, he wakes up 6 times a night, every night when he goes to bed. For me as a doctor, I feel I'm doing a disservice to that patient. If, yes, we have to focus on the prostate and a potential cancer, don't get me wrong, but I want that sleep sorted out. That poor chap is not getting sleep. So a lot of the time when I hear that, I quickly get the investigations that are necessary to make sure it's not prostate cancer. And then my priority is to get this guy sleep. And if that means giving medication potentially that can hold the bladder longer to allow them to sleep, I've had patients in tears afterwards going, for 20, 30 years, I haven't slept because of my
Wow.
bladder control. But I've given, and you know, this is the argument about should you medicate, should you not medicate. In this case, I felt it was appropriate. I've given a simple medication, which I've either kept at the same dose or increased. And they're now waking up, let's put it from 6, they're waking up once a night. What an amazing thing. That chap now is sleeping solid till 4 in the morning, goes to take a bee, comes back. And which is why I'm so big on the sleep, because I've known people who've gained weight and now they're sleeping better. They're losing weight because they're eating appropriately. And then back to what we were saying, they wake up now at a good time, 5 o'clock, 5:30, which is great if you can. I'm not very good like that. And they feel fresh. They read, they start reading, they do yoga, meditation. And I'll give you one last example. I've recently started medication on a mood medication because sadly he's an alcoholic and I'm dealing with the alcohol. So I'm trying to fix that side of it. But one of the issues is he drinks alcohol because he's in pain. So I'm trying to fix the pain, giving him something for the mood. And it's something that makes him sleepy. So he sleeps well, but now he's saying that sleeping medication is making him drowsy in the morning, that at 5:30 he used to do yoga and it's stopping him. So already that's another problem. And I'm like, no, the yoga is priority. We now need to adjust your medication for sleep, taking it either a bit earlier or cutting it in half. And you can see the interest we have as doctors. It becomes each patient is a wonderful subject to help. And the rewarding element of it is, especially in the NHS, where you know, sadly, you don't get paid for each time you do this, but that week or two later, when they're so grateful to you because you've now let them do their yoga, they're now reducing their alcohol because they're not taking it for depression or pain, is a very rewarding part of our job.
Of course, it must be. You're really making a big difference. I've heard with sleep and the hormonal issues it causes, particularly in men, it really depletes their testosterone levels. And when men are suffering from lower testosterone, their drive in life for just even reaching, achieving goals, making relationships, they feel moody, they feel weak, they don't exercise. And I think it's really it's one of just this, it's like the skeleton. It's one of the most essential parts to make sure everything else is in balance. Because if you lose your sleep, then that's the start of everything else falling apart, it sounds like.
Absolutely. And good you bring up testosterone in females. The female hormones get fluctuant and they can affect mood, they can affect weight, they can affect skin, they can affect temperature in the body. And I think the most important hormone that we now quite focus on as doctors is this hormone called cortisol. Now, cortisol is what we call our fight or flight hormone. So it gets released in large amounts when someone's chasing us or when we're stressed. Now, what worries us is that's lovely. Of course, when maybe I'm talking to a group, so we're doing group consultations now. So say I'm not one to get nervous often, but say there's a group of, say, 50, you need a bit of that cortisol because you need that kind of drive and energy to speak well and perform and talk. But too much of it over a long period of time, due to lack of sleep, ongoing stresses, not eating well, lack of exercise, all of these will then slowly increase our cortisol levels so high throughout our day and weeks that it has a negative impact. And it actually produces what we call inflammation around the body, in the bowels, in the brain tissue, around the skin. You leave that going on longer, and this is where the concerns of actually could we potentially develop cancers as a result of it, heart attacks, strokes through these ongoing cortisol high levels, they can actually occur. And now one of my biggest things is when I speak to a patient, I've got a patient at the moment who's very worried about an ongoing fungal infection in the body. And we've been talking about this for 10, 15 years now. He's still alive, he's still doing well. And I always tell him, sir, this is not going to kill you. This fungal is not going to kill you. It's the stress that's going to kill you, because that ongoing stress after stress, day worrying about it. And I want to do everything I can to manage his stress, manage his sleep better, because he's not sleeping as a result of the stress, because he can live longer if that side is managed rather than anything to do with fungal or anything more medical related.
It's really interesting you mentioned that. And I was reading somewhat about this recently. Have you heard of The Way of the Superior Man by David Deida?
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah, he has this analogy and he talks about it from more of a just life psychological, self-improvement side. Whereas it's interesting because I'm hearing it from you from a medical and biological side. And he talks about this idea of the comfort zone. And it's not that we should live inside the comfort zone without any stress, without any stimulus, nor is it we should live so far out of the comfort zone that there's the abundance of cortisol and that you're stressed and it has effects on everything else. It's really, he says, you should live right on the edge of that comfort zone, and that's where it keeps you alive. And there's have you heard of Dr. Hans Seil?
Doesn't ring a bell. Maybe someone will.
Maybe I'm saying his name wrong. Forgive me if I am. He was a Hungarian or Bulgarian scientist, I believe, who studied stress hormones. And he has this quote where he says, "Life is stress, and complete freedom from stress is death."
Yeah.
And as you were saying, when like you need that cortisol when you're giving a presentation because it's telling your mind and your body that the task you're doing is important and it needs your full attention. But it's that too much of it is what causes, you know, the stress and the anxiety and the skin issues, and that has its own problems. So would you say it's quite accurate that you need a balance of the right cortisol, not too much but not too little? And if so, how do you manage that? How do you actually stay on that edge of not too much but not too little?
It's brilliant, Ray. That's exactly what I think is the take home from that subject, because I'm thinking of two examples. One, I'm using something more personal. So I look at Dad, for example. So Dad's probably hitting 70 soon. Yeah. And he always says, "I'll die on the job. Whatever happens, I'll die." And he's quite proud of that because he does Sri Lankan Tamil. He does poetry. He's really into history. He loves traveling. So he's got things he can do. But he still says his passion is medicine. And he always tells me that the minute he's out of a medical job or purpose, in a way, he will deteriorate. And I've seen this. I've sadly seen this with partners of mine. I've seen where colleagues who I admire, who do phenomenal work. They give up their life for those 40, 50 years to the NHS, to the system, and then they retire fully without that gradual retirement. And dementia kicks in, lack of purpose kicks in, alcohol kicks in. They struggle with their day-to-day because all of a sudden they're not waking up at 7, seeing patients 7 till 6, going to meetings, doing things. And that cortisol and that drive or that purpose disappears. And similarly for me, you know, I would love to just do YouTube and Instagram and teach on there, but I have a mortgage, I have kids, I have to look after them. So I need that drive. And I joke with my wife, you know, when since I met her, you know, it's first the engagement ring, and then it's the honeymoon or the wedding, and then it's the house, and then it's the kids. It's an ongoing rat race, and you can't get too absorbed in that. You can't say you want the biggest house on the road. You can't have the kids go to all the best schools, the most expensive schools, but you need to know where your balance is. And for me, holidays is very important. I feel it's a place where we learn about other cultures, other religions. We attend, you know, we try to go to a mosque or a Hindu temple or a Christian church. The kids are there, they're picking these things up. And Dad, we were very fortunate, although it was a struggle early on in my life. Dad was fortunate being a GP that he could take us annually to Israel or Russia or Africa, where we were earning, and it molds you. And I think that was our happiness. We joke and say we used to wake up at 5 a.m, rush around, see all the mosques, and by lunchtime we were done. We ticked our box, and people would say that's not a holiday. You should be lying on a beach. But for us, that was something great. Enjoyment. You know, spending time with the family, learning, and everyone has their thing. So I would encourage all the followers to take some time, whether that's, I know it's such a messy, difficult time. 1 minute you're trying to take a break. And when I mean holidays, yes, it may not be affordable, but take away within the country, go to the Cotswolds or go to Cornwall or go to Scotland. Take a few days, whether that is with kids or your wife, but take some time on your own and find some purpose, or find, are you going down the right path? And I think for me, before I started this project last year, I was in a rut, and you could say, Lavan, you know what? You've got these 2 lovely practices. You work with your best friends, and you got every, you know. And there wasn't that I didn't have full contentment. I wasn't fully happy. It was strange. I was happy for a long time, but I felt I wasn't doing enough, or what I was doing wasn't impactful enough for my satisfaction. Now, there's a lot of people, I could quote my partner who works in one of my practices, one of my best friends, who's like, Lavan, you do too much, just be happy with, and there are people who can be like that. But for me, there was always a drive in me to do something a bit on a bigger scale. And I think the hardest thing for me was trying to find the time. And I did manage. We were on a holiday with the kids. And I think my wife was sweet enough to say, go to spa thing. And I go, spa's a waste of time. I don't need, but I went. And actually, while they do the massage or you sit in the pool or whatever, I had a lot of time to think of where I want to go. And you can't give up financial stuff. I know you're in a great position where you can, lovely, but please earn money for the kids, for the family, for enjoyment, for the food, for the house. That has to go. But can you fit in time? Can you fit in a little bit of time to focus on other passions? And whether that's actually just exercising for your own mental health, or whether that's actually going and doing charity and helping someone, or whether it's doing what we're doing, where you're going on a social platform and trying to give out something, you need to find that. So that's where this balance is a perfect way, Ray, where you explain that you need to still have the hunger, but also you need to have time to reflect, to do other things, and
Sure.
And find good things that you can do in that time.
Sure. I think your example was amazing about how you personally do it. And you touched a little bit on what happens if there's too much cortisol and the effects that can have. But if we're to come into too little cortisol, I don't know what you've experienced in your practice, but I think, just observing the life around me and, the life of some of my friends, it's a problem that people are, excuse me, not exposed to enough stress. And in one of your videos, you're talking about intermittent fasting and you reference our hunter-gatherer ancestors. Now, the thing about our hunter-gatherer ancestors is if they wanted food, they had to go and get food. They had to hunt and they had to gather. If they wanted shelter, they had to build shelter. There's an innate desire inside us for homeostasis. We want to get to homeostasis. We want to get to that relaxed place. However, maybe for the first time in history, I don't know, we have effortless homeostasis, such as if I want food, oh, where's my phone? Hold on, Dr. Lavan, it's coming. Yeah. If I want entertainment, hold on, I'm on Facebook. I see, a viral movie trailer. I see a viral funny video. I see a video in some charity appeal of that, again, 10 million hits. It's something really sad, really happy. We've got this abundance of information just coming to us. Even, food, shelter. Another one is in the past, if you wanted to meet women, you had to go in court. Whereas now you can lie in your bed, you can be on the toilet and you have access to it. So this effortless homeostasis, this lack of stress, what do you think are the repercussions of that?
Yeah, it's a big one and a really difficult subject, Ray. I mean, this, I guess we're slightly stepping now into social media, the IT stuff around the world. And it was interesting because I recently watched something called The Social Dilemma on Netflix. So it just happened to be in, and then it's scary. It's some of the guys who are involved in Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And there's a line they use in there is what we're doing here with social media ruining the social fabric of society, i.e. the way we used to interact, the way we used to do things. I 100%, I mean, I missed the generation of courting on IT, on these apps. I laugh and say, gosh, what a time that would have been if we were there. For us, it was hard work. You had to really talk to people and impress people. I mean, I wasn't very good with the ladies in that sense, but I as you know, I do a bit of break dancing. So that was my thing.
That's right.
3 times a year, whatever dance shows, I was there, had a chance to chat, that was how it was. And it was fun. Right. And, you look back and, what lovely memories. And of course, IT has a place. There are, you meet some wonderful people across the world. I have good friends who've met, people through these various apps, and it's worked out amazing. I mean, so it should be there in alignment. The worry is when one goes too much and this imbalance. And the food is another example. I mean, I'll be honest, since COVID, in our practice, one of my practice, we've been ordering on things like Uber Eats and Deliveroo regularly. firstly, the food, I don't know how healthy, because you kind of see, I mean, it's well packaged, isn't it? You look at it, Uber Eats offers this food, that's, oh gosh, that looks lovely. Yeah. I don't know if it's too healthy. And we're going then, whereas actually before, would you walk down? I mean, I look back and we used to have an Asda or shopping places to eat. We would at least do that walk. I'd get out of my seat, because as a GP, you can imagine, I could easily sit in my chair with no water or no food for 8 hours. It's happened. And it's bad. Don't get me, it's very bad. But actually, the lunch, you know, you've got to eat. So you kind of get up, talk to your partners. Should we go and get, yeah, we walk down the road, we have a chat, we slowed, and we, you know, there's a bit of activity, but actually slowly I've noticed, in definitely in one of my practices, I don't even have to move. The girls will bring the food in. Dr. Baskin, I know you must be busy. Here's a, and you say with the films as well, I mean, I miss going to the cinema. I mean, you know, that experience of, I know they have these fancy chairs now. I mean, we recently found out this thing called Everyman Cinema. These are cinemas where it's kind of like a lounge, nice sofas. You can have a drink, you can have a bit of popcorn. It's not hundreds of people. It's about 20, 30 people. It costs a bit more for the ticket, but I only go to the cinema probably once a year. But even that now, Netflix is, you know, sailing away. Prime, you know, all the, and there is this, it really scares me a little bit, because it's, I think we probably knew the good times or knew those ways of working. So we're conscious about it. So I'm constantly concerned about my wife, my cousins, my friends. We're like, but the kids, we've got to make sure with the kids, but actually the new generation coming through, that's normal. My son now, he's 4, they're giving him iPads at school. Now, I've got nothing against iPads. I mean, now I try to encourage them to watch, you know, number puzzles or something rather than say Peppa Pig. But at school, you are from day dot encouraged to use computers, and so I think how do we manage this as a group, as a society? How do we get together and set boundaries, set times? You know, one of the kids I can think of, we were talking about sleep. There is a young boy, a 12-year-old, who's just on the iPad till 2:33 in the morning, then sleeps and then doesn't wake up for school. Mum's worried, son's worried, but there's no worry there. It's as simple as taking the iPad. Oh, but if I take the iPad away, he's going to get angry. Well, I don't get angry or aggressive in any way with patients, but I did lose my patience. I have to be honest, as I'm a human. When the mother is saying, I can't take that iPad away, and then they're coming and spending, you know, to be honest, NHS time when it could be used for a cancer or blood pressure, when you need to simply just take that iPad away, whatever the consequences, turn the computer games off. That has to be encouraged. So there's a lot of ownership on the parents now to be conscious about it. And yes, you know, I hope what we're doing, Ray, is we're trying to make a difference, trying to help people on a wider scale where they probably don't have access to certain things. But it's that balance, trying to use this IT, social media, exercise, and food apps. I mean, I'd rather my wife spent the time, all of us talking together as a group of 6, this is pre-COVID we're talking, or post-COVID, where we're having a dinner party, and she doesn't have to stress about cooking. Food can just be delivered. She can sit with us, have a drink, enjoy the company, as opposed to the poor thing working, slaving away in the kitchen, missing the whole night, giving the food out, and then the guests go. You know, so there are benefits, don't get me wrong, but we do need to really look at all aspects and see, can we do things differently or be sensible about it?
Yeah, well, we're that first generation that's doing the transition period. I mean, like, what, back in the, like, how long have we had these devices in our pockets that have access to the internet? I think it was Plato or Socrates spoke about the day when humans will walk around with their brains in their pockets. It's really incredible. So we're doing that transition period, and it's how do we balance it in a way that's, you know, productive. And I don't want to just say cut it out, because I've seen people who just say cut it out, and for a long time I was inclined to side with them. And I stopped social media for quite a long time. I came off Facebook, I came off Instagram, I came off everything. I left all of my group chats and WhatsApp, and to be honest, during that period I was really happy. I wasn't thinking, oh, but mate, I should check my phone because maybe someone's contacted me. I'm not considering the likes. You know, these likes, it has a psychological effect. You see how many love hearts you have in your picture. They love me. They love me. It gives you that sort of gratification. So cutting it off, I felt, was one of the best things that I did. I only came back to it for setting up this business and teaching and coming at it from a marketing perspective. But now that I'm aware of the problems and I'm trying to be disciplined with it, I'd still say it's difficult. I'd still say I see myself falling into old habits. I'm aware of these habits when they occur, and I try not to let it take the best of me. But certainly, I see it as is difficult, and particularly for these. Like, I remember I was on. Do you remember MSN Messenger?
Yeah.
You remember that? I was on MSN Messenger when I was like 12 or 13 years old, and that was my introduction. But my little sister, since she's like, 7, has had a smartphone with Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat. It's nuts.
Yeah,
Really crazy.
It's sad in one sense, because this, you stopping the social media, I can completely, I did a period of this as well, where even to the point of radio, even, because of, what we're going through with the Brexit and COVID, people are angry, people are upset with the NHS, with the system. And when you go to work and you want to hear the news because we want to see what's going on, but you're hearing, Trump's doing this in America and we're having this issues here, it sets your day. You cannot say going to work you're going to be normal if you've heard that, Brexit is related to racism, or so, even whether it is or isn't, it's going to impact you no matter which way you feel.
Of course.
And it's similar, this whole idea of waking up and looking at social media. The first thing, if you read an article or hear something or see, say what we do. Say, I don't know, someone's written. I said going into this project, whatever anyone writes on that, I have to just, and there's been I think I've got away quite easy, to be fair, but there's been a couple of comments where, oh, you're the doctor that just follows whatever the government says or something, who cares? But if you don't have that thick skin, you'll struggle. But I know in the mornings, it should be a thing of actually just waking up, feeling happy, ready for the day, actually looking at social media, looking at your bank accounts, all that, which I was doing for a while, is not good. Listening to certain types of music before you go into work is not good. And when you shut off, you are absolutely right. You will be happy because you don't have that impact. But and how do you get that balance? And there's a lovely doctor called Dr. Chatterjee, Dr. Rangan Chatterjee, which I read one of his books. It's called the 4 Pillar book. It's a wonderful thing where, and if you're ever interested, Ray, look at it, because it's kind of what we believe. He basically wrote down what some of us already thought in a really nice, easy to understand way, talking about the sleep, talking about stress hormones, talking about the way we eat and drink.
Sorry, can you just reference the book? What was the book and the author?
Yeah, his name's Dr. Chatterjee, and Chatterjee. It's 4 Pillar Plan.
The 4 Pillar Plan by Dr. Chatterjee. Cool.
Dr. Rangan Chatterjee, 4 Pillar Plan. And he's on all the social medias. He's a lovely, I've never met him. I've had the pleasure of meeting him, but he's like what we strive to, he just took the time, and he's one of those guys who was, for depression patients, wasn't reaching for medication, was trying all the other aspects, which we try to do. I guess we're limited on time sometimes, which is tricky. But, he talks about this Sunday Sabbath, a Sunday, at least one day a week, shut it all off, just shut it all off, put it aside and see the impact that can have. In the week, before bed, don't look at this stuff, because actually it will affect the way you dream, the way you think, the way you function in the morning, the way you sleep. Back to what we were saying. So good 2-3 hours before has to shut down. Morning, don't look at it. Look at it, later in the day. The thing is, I guess when we're active on these media platforms, and we need to be, because actually I get questions asked on my YouTube channel, which, and even Instagram now, sometimes people are directly messaging me, and I want to, a lovely chap, an Indian chap who contacted me recently about his blood pressure, was so grateful. And and it was a morning, I felt annoyed at myself for answering that or replying back, but I was really happy afterwards. So there's a balance again. It's like, well, I've done something really nice. I've now started my day in a really lovely spirit of, I've helped this guy. I don't know who he is. He's quickly introduced, and now we're kind of following each other, whatever. And this is what I was talking to you, Ray, when you got in contact and we started communicating, I started looking at yours and so much from it, because there's bits that I know, but there's really interesting bits. I thought, oh, that's really cool. But I want to help. I want to support, because we're all here to help each other out. Some of the people I follow, have I looked at all of the video? I probably haven't, but I have liked it because the content is good. They've made effort, and I want to. But then, is that feeding into where I've seen people who, if they don't hit their 1,000 likes in that day, it psychologically has an impact, because actually the same hormones that would get released when you take cocaine or when you eat chocolate, or the happiness feeling is released when you get likes on social media.
Wow.
And the worry is, the film, if you want to quote it as well, is Social Dilemma on Netflix. Watch it, it's scary. And it's more for the kids, where you can get this poor young innocent girl who could paste a filtered picture of herself, everyone like, and then suddenly there's one bad comment that says, oh, your ears are something. And you hear that as a child, and the impact. I mean, if someone says something about me, don't get, of course it's going to have an impact on me, but I think I'm old enough. I think I've got a wife and kids. I'm not so worried about it. But as a young, impressionable girl, if my daughter said, Daddy, my ears, it would break me. And then this is where do you draw the line? Because actually, if everyone else is doing, they've all got laptops, they've all got iPads. I was, when iPads first, when my kids were born, I was telling my wife we should no iPads in the house. But wow, iPads, you can learn from iPads. Actually, my son was telling me, he's 4 years old. He's telling me where the organs are in the body. He's telling me about Winston Churchill and how he beat Hitler. I love that. I'm so in awe of my son doing that. But that was through iPad. That wasn't me saying, there was a bit of encouragement from me. But, and he said, oh, where was Winston Churchill? And we went to Oxford this week, as why we were delayed in replying, Ray. And we saw where Winston Churchill was born. And he was, oh, Daddy, that's where he's. So it's got a place. Don't get me wrong. The knowledge, instead of getting a book and taking so long to find the answer, you've got Alexa, which diplodocus or whatever. I mean, these kids know all that. So where do we draw it, Ray? And this is where I think even a doctor can advise and help and share experiences. You can give just as much. This is not a doctor competition. This is, we can all give our experiences, but as a group come to a consensus of, do we follow people like Dr. Chatterjee and say, Sunday, definitely rule it out, no social media. The morning and evening, put that aside. But the rest of the day, monitor it, maybe every hour or two, check. Because actually, it's going to affect our mental health in a big way.
Of course, you must be so proud of your son. It's really nice to hear that he's using social media or the internet in a productive way. Because that's one of my fears about it. One of my fears is that, I don't have kids, but my nieces, nephews, my sisters, they have access to anything. They have access to anything they want. They just ask Google and they get it. So to hear that children are using that responsibly is excellent. And I was talking to a student about this, because originally I wanted to go into primary teaching. And to be really honest with you, there was points of the curriculum I had a little bit of contention with, and I think I'm really happy and I'm grateful that I'm doing this, because I can kind of design the curriculum based on what my students need. And I was talking to one of my students around the time I first started, and I was talking about the dangers of social media, and it should be designed into the curriculum of how we can use it correctly. And the student said something that really inspired me, and that was, well, it's not a matter of the government don't have to solve this problem. There's a responsibility on the parents. Another student told me, we were talking about the economy, and he says it's not on the government to solve the economy, it's on the entrepreneurs. So entrepreneurs that are going to create employment. And really, it's all of us, we have a responsibility within our society to contribute and to do good. I think having good role models is really essential. And another point we could touch on is the role models that kids have nowadays, and how beautiful they are. And on the phone, I've got a Samsung, and see on the selfie camera, there's a beauty mode on it, and it will actually make my face come in and it will make my skin look really clear. Wow. And this is how kids are doing, taking pictures and uploading it. And even on Snapchat, as a default on Snapchat, as soon as you put the filters in, all of a sudden your face gets sucked in and your skin is flawless.
Wow.
And I've even seen, I've spoken to people online, and I've seen their pictures, some students' pictures before they contact me. And then on a live video chat, you realize, oh wait, they look different. And you instantly I know it's these Snapchat filters that suck your face in and make your skin flawless. Wow. It's crazy what we can do to ourselves. We were talking about that effortless homeostasis, you know, effortlessly getting the pleasure of seeing women or food or entertainment. You know, even you don't need to look, you don't need to exercise and look good. I can take a picture of myself and I can use this like stretcher thing that makes my arms look thicker and my skin look flawless and my face looks chucked in, my chest look big, and I don't need to go to the gym, and I can do that.
Yeah.
I see these adverts on Instagram. Maybe you'll start to notice them, but it shows before and after pictures of what a guy looks like. But get our app and your pictures can look like this, and it looks like a different person. It looks like a totally different person. There's pictures of guys with their tops off, and then, you know, get our app and you can just Photoshop a six pack onto yourself. It's like, what is this?
Yeah, it's
crazy.
sad, isn't it? And it's limitless. I mean, you're mentioning these things. I haven't heard of some of these things. I mean, these filters, and I feel I'm quite IT savvy. I feel like, you know, young, proactive, but it's a whole nother world for these guys. And that is what scares me, that the fact, the acceptance of who you are. And don't get me wrong, there's things all of us want to change. You know, that's human nature. I think there's limits. You know, do we need to go? You know, I may say, I'm quite insecure about my hair, for example. I've got a bit of a balding patch at the back. So there's a passion in me at some point, I hope, to get a hair transplant. I mean, but people may go, oh, why do you need to do that? You should be happy with yourself. But actually, it's a self-confidence boost thing. And again, it's back to this balance of, where do you draw the line? Once I get that done, would I then say, oh, my nose, I know I don't breathe as well. Would I get, and where do you draw the line? And I think it's sad that these filters are there, because there's an assumption and we used to have this. I mean, in our Asian culture, there was a mindset of actually having fairer skin was better, or you would get married off it. And this is sad that kind of concept that even is there. It shouldn't be like that. We should all be happy with color skin we are, the shape we are. Of course, you can do things about it. Don't get me wrong. And actually, if you're very, very obese, for example, I'm not going to sit there and go, and because there's this difficulty of fat, they call it fat shaming. You should say, you know, you have to stop eating. But actually, there may be psychological issues why. There may be a hormone imbalance, like we discussed. You need to support that person, but work to get them to a place where they are actually having six pack. And that's why some of these people I follow now, and who've been kindly got in touch with me about fitness, you know, I'd love in the next few videos, you know, in January, February, to actually do more health related, you know, even me doing the exercise. You know, I'd love to, you know, I have to be honest, so there was a time I used to really care about my tummy and things, now not so much, but I'd love to get back into shape, because actually, you know, for yourself more than anyone, for your wife, for your kids, you want your kids to be proud of you. And our dad's going to the gym and he's doing, because by doing that, you're instilling something great into your children. You know, I have a passion for religion, history, politics, because my dad was always keen on it, especially medicine, obviously. And you can't deny that my upbringing, sitting in that house with dad talking about that stuff, wasn't going to impact me like that. My wife is wonderful. You know, she yesterday, shot 5:30 in the morning, she went to gym class or whatever, the personal trainer. And I admire her. Like, you know, I don't know how humanly, I admire people who wake up that early to go and do something like that. I'm bad. One of my things for New Year's is, which we always start, is I want to wake up at 6 or 5 and do yoga or meditation. And I love that you know, the kids, Sarah, my daughter, woke up and was like, oh, mummy's gone to the gym. Oh, lovely. That's good, because psychologically, she's only 2. She's probably thinking mum's dressed in gym clothes, going proactively out, enjoying, because mum comes back very happy, because when she's not in the gym, she's not so happy. And it must have an impact. And these habits, you talk about food and, you know, easy access of just going and buying. I mean, there's things with the Uber. If you could afford to buy Uber Eats food or delivery foods every day, that's going to teach the kids that that's normal. And that's what we want to get away from. It's like chocolates. It shouldn't be normal. It should be treats or food or Friday night dinners, all of us together, Indian. But actually, as much as I'm a rubbish cook, I'll put my hand on. My wife's a wonderful cook. I admire the thought and time she takes to prepare with the kids watching, because I'm hoping, even my son, because I want him to cook, because I was not very good at that. I want my son to go to uni or whatever he does, to be able to pick up and just make something. I don't have that skill. My mum was very lovely and just made everything for me without saying, you know, I'd rather you studied. I'd rather you go and did sport. You know, she didn't allow me to be in the kitchen, but we need to change that culture where if you're reading about history, oh, come on, son, read about this, or reading about Brexit, why are people upset about? let them understand it a little bit in pieces, but let them watch it and let them naturally soak it in, because it will have an impact on them.
Oh yeah, yeah, totally. It's really nice what you said about your kids seeing that, your wife is going, she's exercising and she's coming back feeling good. And I think a stigma about exercise is one thing I don't like is when people say, "Oh, I just don't like exercising. Oh, it's never been something for me," as if it's like playing the guitar or something and it's just a hobby you do or you don't do. It's like it's so essential for human beings to exercise. And particularly one of the the most useful lessons in exercise is like being in the gym or running. It doesn't necessarily feel good. That lactic acid, that being out of breath, it doesn't necessarily feel good. But see, once you do that and you look in the mirror and you think, "Oh, I'm more muscular. Oh, I'm slimmer. I can run faster. Oh, I'm stronger now. I feel better." Once you get a taste of that result, you want to increase that result. You want to look better. You want to be stronger. You want to be fitter. And what you're doing is you're building a good relationship between like discomfort and result, because discomfort is like, again, what we're talking about with stress and the cortisol. It's not something we should run away or hide from. It's something we should, in moderation, like indulge in. And when you have a good relationship between discomfort and getting results, I mean, I think it's the same with like students who come to me and they want to learn English. Like learning English, I try to make my classes as engaging and as relevant to the students' goals as possible. But occasionally there's going to be some really stubborn grammar rule, or there's something they just can't pronounce and they're going to have to repeat it 500 times. They're going to have to do the exercise so many times. And that bit is like, I'm not going to lie to them and tell them it's fun. It's not fun. It's
Yeah.
sometimes it's going to feel like you're pulling teeth. But when you have a healthy relationship of, I'm getting closer to the goal, I'm getting closer to the goal, I'm getting close to got the goal, what's the next one? I think that's a really good place to be, and I think it's something excellent for kids to have. And I think even these gaming industries and these and Facebook and Snapchat, I think they know that's how humans work. And and when you play PlayStation, you get trophies. I got the gold trophy. I got a trophy for playing for 100 hours and I got the gold trophy. Okay, now I want the platinum trophy for playing for 500 hours. Come on, let's do it. 500 hours. And I think it's really important that we have a good relationship with discomfort and getting a result. There's a good balance that we can have there without obviously overindulging in that discomfort.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, that's quite worrying, isn't it? The number of hours. I guess if there was a skill attached, or the number of questions you got answered, I could sympathize and say, oh, look at. But the number of hours is what worries me for a whole period. And even things like Netflix. There was a mention yesterday. I'm a big fan of Netflix. I think it's revolutionized. I heard, recently, I think Blockbuster Video could have had a chance to buy them initially and said no because it was a silly idea. I mean, look at them, they're sailing. But again, this idea of binge watching. I mean, we've been recently watching some of the things, The Crown, about the royal family in England, and I love history, so it's wonderful. You're spending time learning, but also you're watching. So that's a balance. But this idea of binge watching, where you could watch hours and hours, that can't be an achievement. You need to be broken. But actually, if you did a bit of exercise in the morning, you read something useful, and then did a bit of Netflix in the evening, it's like a reward. And I think that's how my wife and me were doing our Netflix. We were like, some days we're so busy with the kids you don't. But then Friday night, that episode's out. We'll watch it. One episode, if we're a bit cheeky, we'll have a second episode because the kids will be sleeping. And I think that reward system has to be put in a boundary, because actually, if you let it go, like with social media, if you say, well, Lavan's going to be on Twitter all day, I could be, Twitter not particularly, but maybe Instagram, maybe YouTube, I could be on there all day. And I've got relatives who've got, premium accounts with YouTube where, you don't have the adverts and things. And apparently they go video and video and video and video. I'm not that serial YouTuber. I watch some nice videos, but you could sit there for hours, 3-4 hours. And if it's affecting, if you do have kids, you do have wife, and, we're in this really difficult time where we're spending a lot of time with them. And, don't get me wrong, it's a lot of time with them. But it's that, I think for me, it's that regret. And I think having a dad who, obviously being an Asian immigrant in the 80s, trying to work his way up, seeing that he didn't have time for us, sadly. He was always taking any shift he could, weekends, daytimes. And this is with, you know, my in-laws. They did jobs that they felt they'd studied as engineers, doctors, and then they ended up being, you know, security guards and things, which it was good. They're so grateful they did it, because they learned the value of money, and they admired what these roles do. Because actually, in the type of privilege we have, I don't want my son to look down at certain employment and say, oh, you know, they didn't do this because of so and so. You know, they need to be proud of the roles they do. And I think because Dad had gone through that, I'd seen he loves spending time with the grandkids, because he sees washing them as the first time he's doing it. He never washed us when we were kids, because he wasn't there. It wasn't he didn't want to be. He wasn't able to. When I used to play hockey or football for school, he couldn't be there on the Saturdays because he was working, because actually to fund for schooling was difficult. So we're now in this more privileged position, and we don't want to be 60 or 70 and look back and say, well, our parents set this all up for us. We then were on Instagram the whole time and didn't enjoy those moments. I mean, that bath time, as much as it can be a pain sometimes doing bath time for the kids, it's those 20 minutes, half an hour that you get with your children of focus time, where you can talk about anything. You can teach them about anything. They can tell you about your day, because actually you're going to wake up one day and they're going to be out on uni. They're not going to want to know anything about you. So that time is very valuable. And when you wake up in the morning, you've got your 10-hour, 12-hour, 14-hour day. It is good to have a rough plan of doing your couple of hours of doing your things, your yoga, your meditation, your exercise, your drinking turmeric water. Set that up. Your 4 or 5 o'clock of doing something else maybe, but in between, fixing it so you have blips of social media or involvement, because otherwise it could go in the wrong direction.
Of course. One of my other friends who's a doctor, they've told me they've dealt with a lot of people at the end of their lives. And when you get speaking to them about, you know, what was important to you, they kind of tell you what some of the regrets are. And one she told me was people saying they wish they spent more time with their loved ones. And, you know, the amount of time we spend distracting ourselves from that. And I think I heard recently that I can't remember the exact figure or even the source. It was something ridiculous. It was like 75% of the people between age 16 and 35 believe that their life has no purpose. And when you believe that your life has no purpose, like, you know, I've worked with these people and they work through Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It gets to Friday, like the whole week, their happiness is just down here. They're just looking at the clock. When's it going to be over? And then it gets to Friday and the happiness is all the way up here because it's, you know, alcohol and partying and staying out late. And then Saturday, Sunday's recovering. And then it's back to the happiness being down here. So the way they get that balance is through this massive polarization of just intoxication and pleasure, or just dull, boring work. And when people believe that their life has no purpose, they start to look at their life like a pleasure pain matrix. I need to get more pleasure than I do pain. And to balance all the pain that I go through all week, I need to just pleasure myself with, you know, whatever it is they do, usually things that are not good for their health. So I think it's a really pernicious effect it has on people. I think having that, like even like what you said about a to-do list, you wake up, you've got these goals to do, you've got meditation, you've got exercise, and at the end of the day, you feel reward. You feel like you achieved what you wanted to do. And maybe the day wasn't full of like entertainment. Maybe you didn't have an abundance of that in the day, but you still have a sense of reward because you pushed yourself through the pain, because you wanted the achievement of, I did this today, I did my exercise, I did my yoga, I ate good food, I spent time with my family. And instead of having this pleasure, instead you have purpose.
Absolutely. And I think going back to that diary aspect of doing it, I would encourage people to do that. I mean, I look at my wife, you know, now that she's done her 5:30 to 6:30 or whatever, I don't think she's going to go crazy now, but she almost deserves, it is like that reward, like you said. She feels she's achieved and done something useful. So if the rest of the day isn't as constructive as she'd like, because sometimes we overdo it. I'm one to put 10 things on there. And then when you only do 2, you're so low by the end of it. You're like, oh, I didn't even do that. I should. But actually, if you do these big things, and for me, it's as simple as, you know, as you know, in one of the videos, I talk about turmeric water, honey, and lemon. And if I don't even have that on a morning, my day's bad. It's really hard to explain, but I feel just incomplete all day. And then I can't take it at lunchtime or dinner because it just doesn't fit. And I notice that if I don't, so if I'm rushed to work, sometimes, you know, we have to see patients at 7 in the morning, for example. So if I've just woken up at 6 and showered and changed and got to rush into work, I miss that water. And simple as coffee, even, you know, as much as that can be a stimulant to drive you, if I don't have the routine, it really does affect your day. And that's why these people, you know, I read a lot now where I've got the time, and this is where I use Instagram a lot, of what makes a successful person. So, you know, Jeff Bezos of Amazon and Bill Gates, what do they do? And it's that kind of waking up early, setting a routine, setting goals, doing certain things. And you could argue, well, they've got the time now, they've made it where they can do that. And this thing about the purpose really upsets me, because especially with men, and then we've got a video releasing next week about men and mental health and how the suicide rates are phenomenal. And I can tell you about Scotland because I've got friends we did some research on about how men's health in Scotland is particularly bad. And, and it's the lack of purpose key, the drink, you know, moving to drugs and alcohol. And what, again, if we're trying to find good in social media and things, anyone could be social media linked. I mean, I'm not saying we're YouTubers or Instagrammers or whatever, influencers, whatever the term is. We are there. We're a presence. But you know, I don't know how it works with most people. I mean, I'm self-funding what I'm doing. You know, some of the videos I do, of course, they're simple selfies, but some I do pay a company, and I'm happy to pay, because actually, if my money goes out of it, I feel if that video can impact in a certain way, I'm happy to lose money for that. I can't do it forever, as you can imagine, and my wife will probably tell me off at some point. But, you know, I'm happy to give a bit of money aside every month or so to say, I want to really create a good video on it. So Nosebleeds, for example, is one of us. You know, we've got to crew in for that. And to do all the editing, I'm not very good at this stuff. Maybe I could do it myself. But so you do that. But that's given me a purpose. Yes, I'm spending a bit of money. But even if I didn't, I've suddenly gone onto this YouTube, Instagram. I'm meeting great people like yourselves and getting messaged by people who, oh, Lavan, can I do a video with you where I want people to learn about osteopathy? Great, let's do it. Where can we? Oh, we can do it in my big fancy office. Oh, lovely. And I'm saying straight away, can I pay? You know, that's sadly as a customer for many things, I naturally feel I have to pay. And no, let's just help each other out. Got a DJ Fish, lovely guy who's created this lovely beat for me. He's like, you do the dancing stuff. Why don't you do like a dance? Oh, yeah. And all of a sudden, it's such a wonderful thing. And suddenly I feel, for someone who probably did have purpose, as we discussed earlier in the video, there's even more purpose. And anyone could do it. You don't have to be a doctor. You don't have to be a teacher. You don't have to. You can be anyone, and you can still have an impact, because actually you just, like my cousin who's got like 1,000, if we're going on numbers, 1,800 followers on Instagram. She just runs. The girl just wakes up in the morning, has a go, runs. And I'm amazed. I'm like, how do you do it? But she's real. She's just like, I look rubbish this day. I work this day. I've got kids here. And I think the reality of it, of anyone can be it. You sympathize. Maybe people don't always sympathize with it because they're like, well, he's a doctor. He's got his practice. I can't, you know. But actually with this girl, yeah, she's a doctor, but she's a mother. She's a wife. She's going through quite a lot personally. She's jogging every morning. And they relate to a bit of that. And then you get that, and you have a purpose. And she feels she has a purpose. When she posts, she's having a purpose. I think even her dog now is got more followers. Respectfully, Ray, I think the dog's got more followers than you. And I'm in admiration of your followers. But it's because there's people who have dogs who learn from each other. Why don't we use it as a learning tool? And we should all support each other. The likes, the subscribes, the following. You know, by Ray following Lavan or subscribing to Lavan, or me subscribing to you, I don't lose money out of it. I don't pay 10 quid. This is a free channel where you may not watch all of Ray's videos. You may not watch. I know my videos, not all of them appeal to everyone. I guarantee. But that one, you know, testicular cancer is a good one where we released, where the main guy who runs the testicular cancer charity got in touch with me because of a statistic on our bio that I got wrong. And I put my hands up. Rushed and trying to fit it on a Twitter feed was whatever. He got in touch in a really respectful, kind way, going, Lavan, great work. Thanks for tagging us. But just to know, it was lovely. And we had this lovely conversation. I learned a lot. There's like a new app for men to feel your testicles, which I'm now going to use for practice. So as a doctor in the UK or in London, I'm using something that some guy in America who set up this wonderful charity for testicular cancer has mentioned to me, not as a selling or anything, it's free. He's just said, Lavan, if you want more information, wonderful. And I love how suddenly you are, I'm speaking to Ray now on a Sunday, loving it, having a wonderful, fulfilling, fruitful conversation I hope people learn from, where we probably would never have this opportunity in another world where without social media. So let's band together and find the positives and focus on that, and find ways to limit where we can to try and make it beneficial for everyone.
Oh yeah, totally. If you know the app off the top of your head, would you like to shout it out?
I can, if you don't mind, just wait. Literally,
yeah, sure, go for it. Go for it.
Because it's on my mail. Here we go. So quite easy actually to remember. Ball Checker, so BALLCHECKER.org. So ballchecker.org, or another one is nutchecker.org. And you can download these, and it's this idea which I talk about in the more recent videos, where I'm not one to, I'm of Sri Lankan Tamil origin, and we sadly have a lot of alcohol issues in the community, and it's something I want to focus on. But I've never been that doctor to just focus just because I'm a man. I want to do men thing just because I'm Sri Lankan. I want to be to everyone. However, there is merit in certain groups, and with the men's health, it is that concept of you and me probably won't go to a doctor as comfortably and easily as a female would. That's no disrespect to either race, but we need to encourage, if people are not feeling their breasts, are not feeling their testicles, you are doing a disservice to yourselves, and actually doing it once a month. I'm not asking you to go to shower every day, but do it once a month, and the moment you feel something funny, that's what we're here for. And we are fortunate in this country where the cancer services, or the way we refer, is so easy now, where it's so quick. Within 2 weeks, you will be seen and sorted out. And they're willing. It's not where they're restricting or putting boundaries. They're saying, please send it through because we want to reassure as many people as possible. So cancer is a big thing. Cancer in men is a big thing, I think needs addressing.
That was amazing. Dr. Lavan, thank you so much for spending this time with me today. I'm sure a lot of people are going to benefit from this. I hope so. I see you as having a really bright future on social media. I think everyone should subscribe and follow you. Would you like to shout out your social media?
Yeah, so I think my main passion is the YouTube, obviously. So if you type in Dr. Lavan, the Lavan, Dr. Lavan on YouTube, you'll find me on there. And then on the Instagram and Twitter, Dr. Lavan, so at Dr. Lavan. But I think through all of these, the way they work, they're all kind of interconnected. So, but YouTube is the target, I guess. And I've seen great work being done on YouTube where people have made such big differences. So I hope all of us, and I encourage other people, I hope if you've learned something from this video, wonderful. But if anything, if you're interested in having a go on social media, have a go, because actually you'll have something to shine on. There'll be a subject you'll be interested in, and there may be a niche. It may be on skin, it may be on history, it may be on religion, and there will be a group that will find it interesting. And it's the community and the networks that you develop, and the lovely future that develops from there. Because I hope, Ray, with yourself, we have a nice future where in the future there'll be another video particularly that resonates with both of us. And like I said, if it can impact one person in the world, and that's literally just one person, if you can make someone's life better, or they then feel their testicles and go and see their doctor about it, just by us having a conversation, brilliant.
Could have really benefited someone. Before we end the podcast, I'd just like to ask you one last question.
Of course.
What's your best purchase under £100?
Ooh, best purchase under £100. I think it would probably have to be, gosh, that is a difficult one. You've got me on the spot now. I'm trying to think. It's going to be something sentimental. I'd probably have to say a pocket watch, which is actually from 1901 that I purchased, which was actually less than 100, but I think it was 98 actually, so just under. Just because I'm quite into historic, valuable things. So even with my son, I hope to pass on something. And this is from 1901. And it turns out this was actually a doctor who actually had this pocket watch. He'd used it. Now, my plan was to actually use it in practice, but I'm so worried that I may lose it that I've kept it. But yeah, it's in my drawer in my study.
That's a beautiful answer. Thank you so much for that.
No trouble at all, mate. Look after yourself and your family.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you.
Take care.